Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy. Well, actually, wait. Let me do this properly. I will add a stream marker here. Okay, so I'll know to export this later on. Happy Mellow Saturday. What's going on? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for joining. Happening. Let me change the not brightness, the warmth here. There we go. Pebble Jay. Good morning. I figured at the time of saying this or time of talking about this, I have just touched that 100 subscriber count on YouTube, and despite calling myself the Stamp Stories, there aren't many stories that I have actually exported onto YouTube. So I figured now's a very good opportunity in a little celebration of, hey, here's a very tiny 1 minute, 2 minute story. Not even a story. Half the stuff I'm about to say, I've said on Twitch a gazillion times already, but that footage obviously doesn't exist on YouTube. So I'm like, you know what? Every once in a while, if I hit a landmark number of 100 subscribers, 200 subscribers, I should celebrate the little things, right? And what better way is to obviously tell a little story, a little backlaw, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to repeat myself here. I'm obviously going to export it and stick it on YouTube and say, thanks for subscribing, 100 subscriber, 8th of October, blah, 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 blah. So I was reflecting, right? I was reflecting. Obviously, these days I play video games all the time. Those of you listening might be playing video games all the time as well, right? The way I was brought up, my first exposure to video games was obviously the Super Nintendo. Let's say, obviously, like you was there. You wasn't there. Of course, you wasn't there. My first exposure to video games, as far as I remember, was Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the Super Nintendo while my family was playing it. And the upbringing that I've had is I wasn't allowed to play video games during the week. I was only allowed to play video games on weekends. So my mum and dad didn't really live together. I think they split apart when I was 6 or 5 or something. I don't remember exactly. But as and when my mum would get me a Game Boy, a PlayStation down the line. Did she get the GameCube? No, dad got that. Where was I at that time? GameCube. I was in upper school. But was I allowed? The point is, I'm trying to remember. By the time I got the GameCube, was I allowed to play video games during the week? I don't think I was. I was only allowed to start playing video games during the week when I was probably 15? 15? 15. I think it was 15 years old that I was allowed, because by then I think my studies and all that stuff had been done, GCSEs, all that kind of stuff. So you can imagine, as someone who really adores Mario, Sonic, video games, Super Nintendo, Street Fighter, Top Gear, what other games, video games. I wasn't allowed to play video games during the week because, well, at that time, it's not like today where, you've got really creative games like, the Minecrafts, I would say Rocket League's creative, but things that you can leave your children on and they can create something awesome, and that's their equivalent to Lego today. Back then, video games were really seen as something that just rots your brain, no good for your time. You should be outside playing or doing something else, or, that kind of stuff. It wasn't given the positive light that it has today. And I'm sure even now people are still fighting to say, no, video games are great. This is what it does for you. Point being, I was just reflecting on, how's life going? How's things doing? And just, oh yeah, I used to not be able to play video games during the week. What did I do then? So I come from the era where instruction booklets used to be included with video games, and, magazines, physical media that you could read physically to just take in all the video game information possible. So I used to just live by reading instructions, the stories they would tell, the little controls, the unique art. I remember even in the original Gran Turismo on the PlayStation 1, there was like 2 instruction booklets, I think. There's the game booklet, and there's a how to drive booklet. Like, I'm going to teach you about front wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, rear wheel drive, the ideal turning circle to take a corner as quickly as possible, what braking does to the, where the weight of a car goes as you brake. Like, as you brake in real life, the weight of the car is now thrown on the front tires to stop because you're trying to stop yourself. I used to read that kind of stuff religiously. And, I loved it because that's all I could do during the week. Otherwise, mum would, punish me for trying to play a video game during the week. I'm just not allowed. One day I might try and pull back a story or two about. No, I shouldn't say one day, because I always tell you lot one day, and then I never get round to it. I lose the inspiration to tell these things. The law of Levi, the law of the stamp stories. So, like I said, I can't play video games during the week. So I would do things like I would build Lego and, pretend I'm playing a game. I would I've obviously told this story before. Let's say this is the PlayStation era, because by then that was a home console. That was the console that I had at mum's house. So let's say it's 3 or 4 in the morning, right? I wake up at a ridiculous hour in the morning because I want to play a video game, but obviously I'm not allowed during the week. It's a school week, you're not supposed to be doing that. What I would do, let me get the blanket. What I would do, right? Is let's say hypothetically, this is the duvet that sits on my bed, right? And this is before we had flat screen TVs, LCDs, all that kind of stuff. This is the classic CRT, the giant TVs with the giant stuff behind it, the giant box of whatever the hell's in there that makes a TV work. So this would be, think early 2000s, whenever the PlayStation 1 was relevant. Think around then. I'd wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning. I would take my duvet. I would, throw this over the TV, and I'd put myself under it as well. So the reason I did that is because think of a door frame, right? A regular door frame, right? And above the door frame is a glass panel. So you could kind of see light can come through there if someone is in the room doing something. I don't know why maybe whoever designed that house or that door was thinking, you know what? I'm going to design this so adults can keep an eye on children. I don't know the reason why they did it. Maybe it's a fire hazard thing. I don't know. Point is, in the room that I stayed in, you got the door, and just above that is the glass panel. So if I, in theory, had the TV switched on at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning, everyone, oh yeah, by the way, my younger brother and my mum also in their rooms respectively had that same glass panel above it, I think. I'm sure of it. So, in theory, you could easily see if people are in their rooms doing something. Safe to say, if mum would wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning, all she had to do is look up and see, oh, there's light coming from somewhere. Someone's doing something they shouldn't be. Someone's getting beaten. No one's getting beaten. That's not what my mum was like. My mum wasn't like that. But anyway, throw the duvet over the TV. I'd also put myself under the duvet as well. So, I'm like this. I'm like this, like, oh yeah, like this. I'm like this, yeah? This is how it is. See, now we're really getting into the storytelling. We got props and everything. I'm like this with the TV. I'm not obviously holding it up. I'm just demonstrating for you, right? This obviously rests on the TV. I would also hit the mute button on, so obviously in today's TVs, the mute functionality of a TV exists, via remote. It's a digital command. But from the TVs back then, there's actually a physical button you could press to mute the TV, if that makes sense, right? So I'd obviously learned the most sneaky way I could do to switch on the TV would be, if you turn on the TV without the mute button, it makes a loud poof. Like, it makes a loud ancient poof noise. Like, everyone in the house is gonna know someone's just switched something on at an hour something shouldn't be switched on. You're in trouble. So hit the mute button, right? Turn on the TV, right? And I can't remember if it did a very tiny noise, but it was the best way I could to get the TV switched on as quietly as possible. And I will turn on the PlayStation as well. Again, that's also under the same cover. Tiny little CD scratch noises as it does, but at that hour of the night, I used to play Rayman on the PS1, the original Rayman, classic game. That was how I used to sometimes get around playing video games during the week when I shouldn't be doing. Sometimes I pulled it off. Sometimes, I think it's 1 or 2 rare occasions where mum actually caught me. I think mum would come out and say, Levi, go to bed, or something like that. I can't remember, but I know I've been caught once or twice, but the majority of the times I wasn't caught. I can say that much. Obviously, don't show this evidence to mum. No, actually, it don't matter if you show it to her. Statute of limitations, we're long past that right now. But those were some classic days. I that was how I used to get around that kind of thing. Yeah, 3 or 4 in the morning. One was sometimes. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I'm remembering more. At that hour of the night, it's dead quiet. So you are listening for any movements from anyone else's room, off the bed, anyone walking around, not walking around, like anyone putting their foot so much as on the floor to be like, someone's awake. Someone's awake. And, you go dead quiet. Your breathing goes very minimal. I don't quite know how mum would have discovered at that time that the PlayStation and the TV was on. I don't remember. I don't know how. And if I ask her now, she's not going to remember, because it doesn't mean it's not going to be as much of a big deal to her as it does to me, because, that's something I carry with me, whereas to her it's just basic adult discipline. There have been occasions where, I mean, what? Let's talk. There's been an occasion where I had pretended. Do I share this? Do I share this? I think I should share this. A long time ago, right before school, I would eat breakfast as quickly as possible downstairs, and then I'd sneak back upstairs while everyone's obviously downstairs getting ready. And on one occasion, I had been playing the Game Boy Advance Mario Kart in my room before school. Obviously, I'm not allowed to play games before school, so mum at one point or another walked in on me and caught me, and well, I was in a whole heap of trouble. And I can't remember what backwards deadbeat lie I'd fed mum at the time. Something like, "Oh, I'd just come upstairs and I heard a beep and I found my Game Boy was switched on overnight." Like hell anyone would ever leave any kind of device like that switched on overnight. It was one of the worst lies I'd ever told mum, and well, I was in a whole heap of trouble, and I was being threatened with being kicked out and something. I think at the time mum was just overreacting. I know that mum, I think the same could be said for most adult parents. They hate having their children lie to them. They'd rather them be honest, but obviously at the time, they're just gonna straight up say, "Yeah, how you told me not to do something? Yeah, I did that." So you're obviously gonna pull out a lie from your backside and hope that works. Unfortunately, at that time, I wasn't well versed with the art of lying to parents. Now, different story. Oh, I could lie with the best of them. Not that I actually lied to my parents, okay? Not that I actually do. But if I had to, I could get a lie off. But again, I'm not trying to say that's what I'm trying to do. Point is, I think in my lifetime, I've been caught maybe 4 or 5 times, maybe 4 or 5 times. If I get to die, no, if I get to die, I will die one day, and whatever powers that may be say, "Hey, Levi, now that you're dead, is there any moments in life you'd like to go over and watch again?" I'd be like, you know what, dude? Show me that kind of stuff first. I want to go back and see, hey, what went on there, blah, 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 blah. One of the things I'd like to relive is that memory of me trying to sneak playing video games in the middle of the night or ridiculous hours in the morning. Do you think you've been caught like a gazillion times, Plevel? Yes. I mean, I like now that we live in a society where video games is like way more socially accepted by, everyone, as opposed to the early/late 90s where there was kind of a crusade from parents against video games in, it's too violent, it's too distracting, it's too this, it's too that. Little did they know, the social media age that we live in today, kids are glued on their phones, and that is way, way, way worse. But that's another topic for another time, obviously. Yeah, point is, I was just thinking about the days of, hey, I couldn't play video games growing up during the week until I was like 15 years old. I basically lived off reading Nintendo magazines, PlayStation magazines, instruction booklets, any little bits of video game lore or knowledge that I could get my hands on. I loved reading that stuff because that was my source of video game entertainment until the weekend would arrive. And obviously with that limited time, I would head to my dad's house because my mum looked after me in the week. My dad looked after me during the weekends for the most part. During weekends, I'd be playing the Super Nintendo, Super Mario World, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Striker, Top Gear. I was never any good at NBA, whatever NBA game was on the SNES. I can't remember what it was, but what other things? Peter Pan. Um, was it Pugsley's Adventure? The Addams Family. There's a bunch of other games that I used to play back then. Point is, the SNES is my childhood, and now if I was to have any children, I'm not planning on having any for the record, but if I was to have children, I would not enforce the same you can't play video games during the week thing, because, you know, I'd rather them get stuck in on something like Minecraft and have them, hey, you can spend as much time as you like on Minecraft, create something awesome, blah, 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 because you never know what kind of roots that could have for them when they're older. I'm all for that. Then, like I said, video game knowledge, acceptance, what it does for children, how adults perceived it back then, very, very dated. Very, very dated. And I did remember, this was about a year or two ago, asking Mum, why did you do this I can't play video game stuff during the week? But my younger brother, obviously, what parents do is, you know, the strategies they employ with you as the first child, they see the results there, and then they decide for themselves, oh, it was all right for you. Okay, as a result, the second child, we won't be as harsh as you. So my younger brother was able to start playing video games during the week. I think when he was 11 or 12, way earlier than me. Put it that way. And I was like, well, that just ain't fair, is it? I had to go through that longer than him. Hold on, man. Paint us with the same brush. He can't get favoritism. Hold on. Hi, Hill. Good morning. Happy Mellow Saturday. Hope you're doing all right over there. Thanks for following the channel. I think I've babbled enough for now. Enough story time. Point is, growing up in a household, well, I guess it beats growing up in a household where you don't have any video games to play, full stop. You know, that's obviously the big full stop. That's not what I had. I just had the whole, you could only play video games on a weekend. So whenever those weekends came, those were extra sweet for me. Extra sweet. Boo, more story times, your sister. Your sister says more story times. I can't make this clip too long because then... No, you know what? I know what to do. I'm going to hit this stream marker now, and I know I'll export this for YouTube as a thanks for the 100 subscriptions on YouTube. Here's more story time.